Live then great.
Yeah, we're live.
We're live and direct, and we are coming at the internet. Wow. Hey, I'm Blake Morse, co-editor-in-chief at Shacknews.com, and today is the middle of the month, Wednesday, which means it's time for another episode of Retail Therapy. That's right, the only show that I know of where it's just all about hanging out and talking about things that you love. Today's episode is, as you can see, chock full of paints. Wow, that's a whole lot of paint, Greg. Greg Burke, our video editor and co-host of Pop Goes the Culture here on Shacknews.com. Rodney Conyers Jr., co-host of Wide World of Electronic Sports and Retail Therapy co-host. And today we are joined by two very special guests. Let's introduce them now. Ted, hi there, Ted.
Howdy, Blake. Hey,
You've worked in the video game industry for a long time. You and I know each other pretty well.
for a really long time.
Yeah. But now you are doing PR for some tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, our company Uber Strategist has kind of branched out. We started working with Chris from Modiphius over here. So not so this sounds like a sales call, but yeah, basically we've done a whole lot of tabletop, which is great for me because I love tabletop stuff. And so that's why I'm on here, not trying to promote anything, just hanging out with the gang and getting to talk about painting.
Yeah, and then last but obviously not least, Chris Birch, CEO and founder of Modiphius. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you very much. And I've got this nice Elder Scrolls background because I'm surrounded by boxes after a house move.
Oh, no problem. I'm surrounded by boxes because I'm lazy. So don't even trip. Thank you both for coming on today. This is a real treat for us. And we actually have some miniature figures from Modiphius that we're going to be painting today, right, Greg?
Yes, we do. We have from their Fallout Tabletop RPG. Is their
awesome.
It's like one of your starter
No
set
stress.
boxes or your core boxes, right?
Yeah, cool. Which one is it?
So we're gonna paint the power armor because the scale's the biggest, kind of like that one.
Yeah.
Nice.
Greg, you're a big Fallout fan too, as well, right?
Oh yeah. And I haven't had a chance to play the tabletop game yet because of the pandemic, but I also have that as well. And you guys also make Elder Scrolls miniatures as well.
Yeah.
So and this is actually interesting because this is your first time making miniatures, right? Like this is your company's first round of actually injection molding resin and selling it.
Well, we did when we did our Acton Cthulhu game. Gosh, 10 years ago now. We did a range of 28mm scale World War II heroes and Cthulhu mythos creatures. But I mean, it was just to accompany the role playing game. We weren't doing it we didn't really do it as a proper war game. And then Fallout was the war game that really doubled the size of the company. And because suddenly you need painters and sculptors and people to brief the sculpts and a whole dev team to keep developing the game every single month, because you can't just, not like a board game, you stick the board game out and it's done, right? If you don't release something new every month, people are going crazy that you've dropped the game. So and there's so much to release for Fallout. I mean, I think we've been releasing something every month since the last 3 or 4 years. So, and still going strong.
Yeah, it's a really interesting. Can you talk? As I'm getting set up here, can you talk about that process of making the models in CAD and then deciding how many pieces they're going to be in, and then putting it in a box and getting it to customers? Because that's got to be an interesting process.
Well, we first of all we get the figure sculpted. So there's an art brief based on, and the great thing with Fallout is you can go into the game and spawn that character, and then do kind of screen grabs all the way around. All the gear that they're carrying. You can't use the models out of the game. They're too low res for good quality miniatures. So we then resculpt them from scratch in a really cool pose. So you've got to really think, well, how do we want this power armor to look? And it's got to look like someone moving in power armor in the game. So, the team usually, watch a few, people running around in power armor and you also look at other dudes in power armor in interesting poses to get ideas, and settle on something cool. The sculptor does that, so they typically start with what we call a T-pose, where it's just it's the guy with his arms out, just to get everything looking right, and then they bend the arms around, which causes creases, and you've got to smooth them out and make it look nice. Once you've got the final sculpt, it then usually our factory look at it. We've got a factory that does all the resin miniatures here in the UK, or if it's going into hard plastic, that would probably be in China or one of the other factories we use. And they might comment and go, well, we think this bit's a bit thin. There's all sorts of like tolerances. Often, people say, oh, why are the fingers so big? It's because actually, if you made them actually to scale, they'd break. And no one has fingers like that on a model, right? They're always like that. You never see, or like that. We did that, but with the girl's got a really big thumb, and people are like, why is the thumb so big? Because it would literally snap off. And also from when you actually have the miniature like way out, right down on the tabletop, you don't. Of course, it might look a bit odd at close, but actually the proportions look right on the table. So we get some feedback. So the sculptor might change, some of the angles a bit because of the way the model might go into the mold, and to improve how that will go. So maybe you get less errors, and then they cut up the model into the parts recommended by the factory. Then it gets 3D printed, goes to the factory. They make a master, which then is used to make the submasters, and then hundreds of production molds as we go. So it takes a long time. That's probably 6-month process from starting the briefing to having a final miniature.
And then these ones are what you call these human scale, right? Because they're 32 or they're 40. They're on a 40 millimeter base, but the models are ever so slightly than something like a Space Marine in Warhammer, right? Where they're just a little more slender.
They're heroic scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's heroic scale 28 or 32 mil scale. I mean, we work to a 5'8" human is 32 mil from foot to head. And of course, a Space Marine, power armored Brotherhood of Steel is much bigger. That should tower over the human, and the super mutant's big as well. And of course, the bases we have these nice resin scenic bases that come with each set, and they are I think 3 or 4 mil thick, so that does bump it up slightly. But so that you get a nice texture to the base, not just a flat disc.
Now, what color do you all want me to paint this power armor? Because there are so many different power armors in Fallout, and I can paint any color you want. We can leave it to Twitch. We can have a vote here. Just what color do you want the power armor to look like? What do you want? What are we going for?
You got anything with like pink glitter sparkles, Greg?
Uh-oh. I knew it was coming.
I have
There's too much Citadel paint there. You got to do blood for the blood god. That's my favorite Citadel one.
There you go.
I have that. It's right here.
What? It's
blood for the blood god.
Yeah.
You do have it?
I have every.
You got the actual color?
I have. It's a technical paint.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have every single paint I think they make.
I think I sneak that one onto every mini I do. Like they'll have a necklace or something with just a dab of it.
Great.
You thinking a red power suit?
We could do that's the Nuka-Cola power suit. We could do the Nuka-Cola power suit. We could do.
Why not?
You want to do that?
There you go.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Red with some nice white highlights.
There you go.
So I'm mixing my paints right now. So these don't come primed. I know some models out there do. I had to prime these. I primed them in white just because I like priming in white. It took me 10 years to work up that courage to actually do models in white.
So is priming just putting the base coat on?
Kinda.
Or...
It's the resin. These are made out of resin, so the paint needs something to stick to, so it can't stick to the resin by itself. So the primer basically creates a layer for something for the pigment to latch onto on the model itself to allow the paint to settle and sit on it. There are certain minis that come pre-primed. I even prime those because I never like the primer they use when they pre-prime things.
Yeah.
Probably because I'm old.
Or like the Bones miniatures. I think I've actually got one over here.
Yeah.
they don't need priming. If you prime them, it makes them worse in some cases. Yeah, it's a weird resin that they use, and that's their big shtick is don't prime these. You don't need to, but they don't have a prime.
So you're saying they're ready for prime time players already?
So for somebody like myself who's a novice, what would be a bit of advice on getting in, to painting and to doing basically what Greg is doing right now? Because I think this is really cool, but I'm learning so much as, you guys are both breaking it down.
Start with robots, because robots are really easy to paint. You just prime them black and then you paint them silver, and then that's basically like that'll teach you a lot about technique, and they're so easy to paint for that reason, just because they don't.
I did scenery during when me and my wife first got married and we started the games company. We had I was buying and selling like collections of Flames of War stuff, and I would touch up the bases. And I can't paint miniatures, but I don't know enough just to glue the broken bits on, get the bases looking really nice, and sell them. And we paid for our first holiday, and we got this big pile of. Do you remember there was that first Lord of the Rings scenery set that's got some statues? There's a fallen statue. There's kind of like an L-shaped wall piece. And we got a whole bunch of those sets, and I taught her how to dry brush. So we were like dry brushing. It's basically like grey paint, some lighter grey paint, and then like the little white dry brush. And we were selling them on eBay. It was great, and she couldn't believe that it was worth so much money.
See, I knew you were a Flames of War player because they like the slightly smaller scale to that of like War Machine or 40K. They like the scale a little bit better.
Yeah.
Ever so smaller. Like it's not, like that's the. Some of that stuff can get ridiculously huge, and I'm sure you guys will eventually have vehicles you add to this line or something like that that'll make it even bigger or whatever.
We've got a lot of 3D print vehicles because they're so crazy big. We did some resin cars, but when you start looking at the APC and the Vertibird, they're just such insane pieces. They would be really crazy expensive. We did Liberty Prime. As a big model, because why not? It's a big robot. You've got to have a big robot. But
your flagship piece,
yeah. But and it looks so cool on a stand, And but the other stuff's all 3D print. So we've done a whole vault and the whole Red Rocket in 3D print, which I printed it. I scaled it down to about 80%, because obviously for a war games table, it's not necessarily about scale. It's like because you don't want it to just totally dominate the board. Does it look right with a super mutant or a I was about to play Space Marine again then, super mutant or Brotherhood Steel or Nora walking through the doorways? Does it look about right? Great, because actually you want it as like usable terrain. So it's an interesting thing with scaling there and 3D printing that you don't always need to be 100% scale.
So when it comes to like 3D printing and scaling, like what would you say the trial and error process is? I mean, you said, before it was about 6 months on, to design most things. And then I'm also taking into consideration the sheer hand-eye coordination that I certainly don't possess. I'm very happy that Greg can do this because I don't have it. So like, what would you say the process is?
Well, for 3D print, you've got a lot more flexibility because, it depends whether people are printing in resin or on FDM, which is like it comes on a reel, and resin is basically a pool of liquid, a lot smellier. I've got an FDM printer, and I've resin. Yeah. Ooh.
It's so brittle. Why? It's so brittle. I've already lost the Ranger's thing. I'm so sad. His little thing snapped off.
I'll teach you the trick for non-brittle resin.
Yeah. Resin's great for miniatures, whereas FDM is really good for just if you just want to print out some scenery, and lots of people are doing actually miniatures and vehicles and things that you can make with FDM now. But I would take a doorway, so I would always start with a doorway, and I'd print the doorway at 100%, and then 90 and 80%. And then just compare it next to the miniature, and I was like, actually 80% looks good, and 80% saves a massive amount of resin and plastic and time, because it's not just 20% less. It's like in a 3-dimensional volume, like is a really big reduction. And then of course it takes up a smaller amount of space on the board, so you can have more terrain. It still looks like the Red Rocket or whatever. You know, I have got we've got a really nice vault, you know, like Fallout Vault with all the walls and doors and stuff. And again, just scaling it down a bit means you can still have really cool terrain, but it doesn't take you forever to print it.
I see. Yeah, my roommate here, he actually just bought a 3D printer. He's been wanting to get into this. I hope he's watching, because I mean, this would be the episode to tune in on. But he's been printing little like Hello Kitty figurines, probably a bunch of stuff that he legally doesn't have the right to be printing, but he's doing it anyway, just to practice. I think
the first thing you do, it gives you this little like Hello Kitty type cat and then a dog to print off. So it's probably the first thing you print. But
okay, I was afraid.
It's weird science, right? Because it's like, I mean, I nearly threw it out the window after about a couple of weeks of having it, because you'll watch a video and then there's 3 YouTube videos with people telling you 7 different settings that you've got to get it right. And then these other 5 videos, no, there's these other 6 settings. And this one's got 15 settings. And there's all these different settings you've got to change to get it right. And it's like, well, who's right? Tell me who's right. I just want to know. And then you change the settings. And then my thing tried to drill its way into the base plate. It's like, oh, no, wait. That's from 2 years ago. It's the old version of the model. And there was no notes that said, whatever you do, don't do this, because we fixed all this stuff. and so, yeah, it really drove me crazy. And there was a bit of software called Simplify 3D. If anyone's trying to get into 3D printing, it's $100. It's free for 2 weeks. Literally, it worked every single time, first time once I started using that software. It just got all the settings right, just made stuff print, which I think I don't want to spend, you know, everyone says, oh, but 3D printing's so easy. I can print a whole army. Yeah, but you spent 7 years printing the army of your life. Everyone forgets that. Oh yeah, but the resin only cost me like $20. Yeah, but like you spent 7 years getting it right. And you know, and of course we just want to have an army that's on the table that I can just play it this weekend, right? We're a long way off me going out for a few beers and going, you know what, I really could do with another unit of Panzer Grenadiers by tomorrow morning. And they're ready to go. I mean, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years, but it's a lot of work, and it's great fun, because you know, once you get it right, you can start churning out all this cool terrain. And I was like, I was discovering all this cool terrain for a new project I'm working on, and it's really fun downloading the files and trying stuff, and you know, you can start printing off. You'll start printing off bizarre little gadgets for the house, like weird door jams and things that do things and clip together with other things. So it's very cool. It's great. It's great fun, but it's you need to invest the time.
Yeah, it's definitely a trial and error process when you're doing stuff. Games Workshop's that's a huge company that's been making miniatures for like 30 years, and they still have issues printing in plastic and resin and trying to figure that out. So it's definitely
yeah. I mean, when you see the actual process, it's all like resin is very hands-on. It's like it's you know, lots of gooey, not very nice liquids. They get, you know, and you basically take what's, you know, effectively pressure cookers and force the material in, and it's very dirty, and you've got to clean up afterwards. And it's not, you know, a simple automated crystal clear little factory. It's, you know, it needs lots of cleaning and stuff. So it's
here's some terrain that's 3D printed on the screen that I'm showing us. That's and you don't, it's nice, like you said, but you don't get the resin. You get so much more detail on the resin, like just a lot more.
You do.
It's a pretty big piece of work. I need to prime it and paint it, but.
And there's SLS coming up, which is you know, is a kind of like kind of sandy material. And it's, you know, the other thing I think is quite interesting, I've been describing this as it's the bit of the battle between VHS and Betamax. So I don't know if any of you remember. So Betamax was the high quality video, and VHS was cheap, and anyone could make a VHS machine, and but Betamax was like really cool but more expensive, but so much better quality. And in the end, because it was an open source thing to make a VHS machine that they took off and they were cheap, whereas Betamax ended up being used as the master tapes. Like if you went into a recording studio, this is kind of back in the 80s, you'd use a Betamax tape for your mastering in your album, or or filming a TV show or something.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like that now. You look at some of the terrain and you see all the lines on it, and you can see like that's terrible. Like you could never sell that. But actually, once you paint it over and put a bit of moss on it and stuff, no one's going to know at the table. And for a lot of people, I think there's this sort of like, it's good enough for me. You look at a lot of the kind of 3D print stuff that you can buy, and it's really low detail, low poly, kind of quality level versus the very beautiful plastic and resin miniatures that you can buy from companies. But for a lot of people, it's okay. It's the miniature I want, right? I can't get this miniature from any company, and it's good enough. So I think there's an interesting diversion happening here in the fan base of people who kind of, they don't care that it's super high quality because they can make it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a friend who just has basically a DIY factory, and he's constantly making Fortnite cosplay stuff and Gundam masks and things like that.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Well, the other thing with printing them yourself is when you got a couple of drunks around the tabletop who are dropping miniatures off the table and they break. You're like, don't care. That cost me 5 cents to print.
Oh
yeah, true.
I'll make another one in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Greg, really quick, Snake Wasp wants to know what paints and brushes do you use?
Oh, I swear.
It's Citadel paints. Right?
I swear by the Citadel paints. Yeah, I mean, there's like multiple different types of paints. Army Painter's a brand that makes paints. Privateer Press has their Formula P paints. Like, the reason I like the Games Workshop line is I don't like mixing because I feel like I waste so much paint when I mix. And like they have such a wide range of colors I never need to mix. Usually with other paints, like it's encouraged to mix if you want to get a certain color, especially with the P4 paints. But I like the paints right straight out of the pot. I don't like mixing them. So Citadel paints all the way for me. And in terms of brushes, I kind of have a little bit of everything. I have some cheap brushes at Michael's that I got. I have some Citadel brushes, and some of them are okay. They're really overpriced, and they're not that great, like, for a lot of the stuff. But I go to Michael's, like, this was, like, part of a set, the one I'm showing you on screen now. It came with, like, 20 brushes for, like, $10, and it makes a great dry brush. The only thing I buy from, like, Army Painter or Citadel are, like, the detail brushes, because they're so fine. But even then, like, I have problems with them fraying and losing stuff. Like, the Citadel paint brushes aren't the best. So you just go to Michael's and get whatever you need. And if you need a really high detail brush, go Army Painter, probably would be the best way to go. I'll be right back. I got to get my inks. I forgot my inks.
Greg forgot his inks. Typical Greg.
Oh.
Let's see. Well, while Greg's on, so Chris, obviously, it sounds like you were really into this tabletop or RPG lifestyle before you even founded the company. I'm guessing that was maybe the inspiration to kind of do what you love for a living. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, well, my wife Rita was the inspiration. I mean, I was kind of in the video games industry before. Actually, I had a fashion label called Joystick Junkies that we did all these like really cool graphic art T-shirts based on stuff like Space Invaders. We had the Atari license. We did stuff with Midway Games, with Activision, but we would make stuff that you would sell in a fashion store that you probably wouldn't even know it's based on a video game unless you were a gamer. And then you would be like, wait a minute, that graphic's made up of little Space Invaders, but it's some kid, sitting on a CCTV camera, or like very kind of urban cool type stuff. And so I did that for 13 years. And before that, I had a PR company, a bit like Ted, but we were doing some of the first PR in the end of the 90s, like just as kind of email was a thing, and there was like Blues News. Do you remember Blues News, big first-person shooter gaming site that was all about Doom and Quake. So we would go out and pitch them for with stories about Half-Life, and I worked on Star Siege, the early game, and all sorts of kind of early games. Like we did the soundtrack for Wipeout with Sasha.
Nice.
He did that track called Expander, and we took him on tour around like Ibiza and Miami Music Festival, and did all these like wipeout parties. It was hilarious, like mental days. And we did the soundtrack for Roll Cage. God, remember there was Roll Cage, the Psygnosis racing game with these cars with like massive tires that you would just spin and bounce around the canyon and drive over each other.
I think I have a copy of that somewhere.
Yeah, it's
I'd have to look in my collection, but I'm pretty sure I have it.
We did. There was this French. Oh God, it's going to come to me. It was this French game, a bit like. I was just remembering. We did all this like viral marketing for this French game. There was like 4 main characters. And we had these crazy expensive. This was back when video games companies were spending a fortune. They had spent like $5,000 each on these like mad costumes by this top clothing designer in London, and we had them doing play fighting at the ECTS, which was like this it was like a mini London E3 event. And they were play fighting so much they kind of fell into this stand, and the whole wall collapsed, and there was all these people like behind playing games on PC.
Oh, no.
It was just one of those magic moments, and everyone was looking up, like going, "What's going on?" It's like, "Don't worry, it's all supposed to happen." But yeah, it was just like chaos, and we had so much fun. Like we were stickering lampposts and stuff. But so anyway, that was a very long, like down the rabbit hole intro to how I got into tabletop, which was when I first was a kid, I got into D&D and other little games, but it was and I've been a gamer all my life, but it was having spent 13 years in the clothing, and I was pretty much sick of it by then. I'd been there and bought the t-shirt, and Rita said, you should get a life and do something that you enjoy. So I kind of went back to my childhood love for tabletop games, and we were lucky that Kickstarter came along, and we jumped on that and did our first project and made enough money to get the company going.
That's amazing. I'm actually on eBay right now because I like clothes, and I'm looking up the Joystick Junkies t-shirts, and they all resell on here for quite a bit amount. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, but they seem like some pretty rare collectibles these days.
Yeah, I've got a pile in my my wardrobe. I keep hanging on to them, thinking, I was wearing one the other day, but I'm a bit too big for the ones I kept now. But I've got some cool old jackets and like trousers and stuff that we did, and but there was some really fun designs. We had a lot of laughs. We used to do these big video game parties in London with like banks of old school arcade machines. And we'd invite people from all over London, like modeling agencies, record companies, like just anyone who was fun and up for a good night. It wasn't like your usual gaming party. Mm-hmm. It was a really mixed crowd, and everyone had a really good time. There would be a corner where we had like loads of Polaroid cameras, and you could just dress up in 70s gear and have your photo taken and just be stupid.
It sounds like I was born in the wrong era, and that's all I'm hearing.
Yeah. That was the days, but so I'm glad my wife gave me the push to. She's like waving me. Don't talk about it,
man. But yeah, since then you guys have gotten a ton of like amazing like licenses now. Like we're looking at some Fallout figures right now, but you're also doing Dune, right? And like Star Trek. You've got a Star Trek game coming out, right?
Yeah, we just announced Discovery today. We're doing a Discovery campaign book, which is cool because I love the new series.
That's awesome, dude. That's super cool. What's it been like getting your hands on like these like huge influential like franchises?
I think weirdly enough, it was relatively easy. Well, it took a lot of work, but because when I had the t-shirt company, we did a lot of licensing. So we were the first company to get Atari, and that took like 5 years of badgering them and they went bust, and then a new company bought the brand, and then finally convincing. I remember being in a meeting with the people at Atari, and I had this huge folder of like old school adverts and like all the old vintage advertising they did, and all the research, and I knew more than them, the people who were running Atari at the time, about the Atari brand and how cool it was and all the stuff that had come before. And it took a long time, and so I'd done that so many times with like with Space Invaders, and convincing Taito, this Japanese company, to let us do clothing was also a bit of a major milestone and really hard work. And so, when we came to do tabletop games, I knew what these companies wanted to hear and the kind of money they wanted to see on the table, and so it was relatively easy for us to jump in and get all these licenses. We had to start small because we were like a 2-bit operation, me and my wife and another employee. And so we started with this license for Mutant Chronicles. It was a bit like it was a gonzo Swedish take on Games Workshop from the 90s with even bigger shoulder pads. And it was just like the Swedish taking the piss out of Warhammer.
Big shoulder pads.
It was hilarious. It was just crazy. And we relaunched Mutant Chronicles, the role-playing game. And that got us started with our own rule system. TD20, and we worked with this guy Jay Little, who worked on the X-Wing miniatures game and the Star Wars role-playing game, and then that kind of got us going. And then we got this Thunderbirds board game license, and then we got Infinity based on this other big miniatures game, and then we got Star Trek, and then that led to Bethesda. Everything was a stepping stone to get something bigger.
Yeah, sometimes
I see there's a Kung Fu Panda in there as well.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I like that.
We and because I read that Jack Black's a role player. He's got a Hollywood gaming group once a month. So we knew he was coming to a press event for Kung Fu Panda. So we took this big bag of my Acton Cthulhu game books in this like beautiful like leather and canvas military satchel. It looks amazing. And I gave it to him at the party. I said, like, I heard you play D&D. Why don't you try punching some Nazis next time? And here's a bag full of this game. And he carried it with him all the way around the party. It was really heavy.
Wow.
He wouldn't let it go. So I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think that he took it on the plane and took it home, but you never know.
I'm kind of curious. What was your guys' first minifigs? What was like the first thing you ever painted?
Ted?
Oh, if we're going for me, I actually have rebought the set. It's the old D&D, the AD&D sets where they used to do sets of like fighters, paladins, whatever, and there'd be like 12 in there, and they're like this ridiculously weird scale. It's almost like 18 millimeters tall. And then from there, I picked up the Star Frontiers minis and all that. But I actually found on eBay that set I had first painted. And I grabbed it and repainted. I spent like a year doing each miniature by itself. And then I found out, then the next thing I had done, I was just sitting on the couch one day, and I looked at my wife and was like, I can't find that dragon. She's like, what are you talking about? Are you having a weird episode or something? And there was this dragon I painted when I was 13. I don't know if you guys know sculptors that much, but Julie Guthrie is kind of really well known. Yeah. She used to do this whole dragon series in the 80s. And I was like, I had this beautiful red dragon. Come to find out, they've done like a remastered line. And I tracked that down and just did a repaint of one of those. So,
wow.
But yeah, my first ones were these teeny tiny little official D&D branded figs that, they were tough because they were so small.
What about you, Greg? What was the first? Do you remember the first thing you've ever painted?
Yeah, I had miniatures for like D&D and stuff, but I never painted them because, much like Rodney, I didn't want them to look bad because I'd never painted it before. But like I ended up getting in 3rd edition, right as 3rd edition came out for Warhammer 40k, I got a bunch of Tyranids and I painted all of them, and that army doesn't look very good. But like I painted an entire army over the course of like a year, and that taught me so much. Like I learned about dry brushing and all these different techniques to make them look better. And then you can kind of see, like when my army's on the table, you can kind of see like where I started to paint, and then like something I painted a year ago, and they clash, but that's okay because I mean you got to start somewhere, and you have to practice to make perfect, especially with painting.
So where are you right now with this minifigure, Greg?
So I primed and then I based a red, a darker red, and then I dry brushed a little bit, ever so slightly, a light red over it to kind of edge the highlights. But I'm gonna dunk it in a wash right now because I'm using this. I don't know if you guys can see. This is my reference. So
you're on your phone. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm trying.
So you're gonna have to go back and add all of those white highlights. And,
I might use silver instead. I know they're white, but they're just so dirty. And whites painting something white and yellow and orange is probably the most difficult thing to do because the paints, especially the way Citadel makes them, it's like they're really thick. So you got to make sure you water them down. It's going to take multiple layers to get the achievement you're looking for. So white is definitely a hard color to do.
But the paint, how these paints dry quick, I take it.
Pretty much.
That's all.
I go really ham on the dry brush and on the ink, so it's gonna be wet for a little bit, but I'll dry it off and show some other stuff while that's happening. So right now I'm taking this is a they call it a shade, I call it a wash, tomato, but basically this gets into the recesses of the model and brings out a lot of shadows. It's also a great way to cover mistakes. So if you miss something, you can pull this on there, let it dry for like a couple minutes, and then it'll look much better. As you can see, you kind of look at this part.
Yeah.
Kind of see.
They call Nuln Oil talent in a can.
Dude, I kid you not, there are people on the internet that they create custom racks for swarm armies, and they base them all, and then they just dunk them in and then pull them out because it's such a pain. Like when you have a swarm army, it's a lot of models to paint, and it's a lot of the same models you're painting like 37 times. So it's not like
have you had your true initiation into Citadel paint pots and spilled that beautiful container of Nuln Oil?
Oh, I've spilled so many inks.
Everybody spills a Nuln Oil at least once. It's like, well, there goes like $15 in wash.
They are expensive for paints, but like it is. They are one of the best quality paints in my opinion.
Well, if you've got a 3D printer, there's a great plan out there that's for free. It's a Citadel paint pot holder, so it keeps them from falling over. I had to print a lot of those.
And that one you could print because I'm sure the one they sell is like $87.
Yeah,
their stuff is very expensive. If you guys,
yeah. And then, Chris, what was the first miniature that you remember painting?
It was me and my friend Stuart got into the West End Games Star Wars miniatures game. There was all these little boxes of, it was I got some Stormtroopers, and that seemed pretty easy for me. He was so good at painting that I'd be like, I don't want to play with my stuff. Let's just play with yours. But I painted some Stormtroopers, and that was because that was pretty easy. It was white with some black, a black undercoat and then some white armor on top. And you couldn't really go. I did go very wrong. It wasn't great. It was. I'd be ashamed of it.
It's the white, man. I'm telling you, white is so hard to paint. That's why they make. I'm trying to find it here. So this is pretty new. It came out a year or two ago. But this is how you paint Stormtroopers now. So you prime them white, and then you use this. This is called a contrast paint, but it's white. So what it does is it goes on like ever so slightly gray, and it goes into all those little crevasses, and it looks really good on the model. Like that's if you want to paint something that's 90% white with some like highlights, this is what you use. I swear by this stuff. It's amazing. I mean, actually, I'll show you. Hold on.
Yeah.
Man, Greg, we got to get you like a Citadel paint sponsorship or something like that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I've got a pile of Star Wars Legion Stormtroopers that need painting as well. So.
Yeah, that Apothecary white is really good for that. I have a bunch of the Return of the Jedi Jungle Troopers or whatever they're called, the Scout Troopers, and I did them with that. Same thing Greg's saying, like just hit them with some white and then hit them with that, and it just dribbles into the cracks and darkens the right spot. Because I mean, that's the nice thing with the contrast paints; they do all the steps for you. They highlight, they shade, and they base all in one.
Yeah.
Especially, if you've got a big army to do, it's a huge thing. I love 10-man fantasy as well, and that's so many figures to paint. It's crazy.
Greg is really digging deep in there.
He is,
Yeah, he's Like, Greg doesn't mess around. Apparently, Greg every Friday has a standing date to paint miniatures.
Oh, wow.
Every week. Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? You've just got to make it regular. Our guy John, who runs our studio, his thing is like, if you ever, you've got to leave the paint sets out, and like, because otherwise, if you've got to get them all out again, you'll never really kind of get into the painting.
So like
that consistency of painting, isn't it?
So this is like one of the first things I ever painted, and you can kind of see like it's really flat. It's super flat. Like there's not a lot of texture to it. I didn't get any of the details into the gun. The yellow is super globbed on the eyes. Like it doesn't look very good. Because this is like one of the first things I ever painted, right before I knew how to paint. So even the basic.
What is that?
It's a termagant, so it's a little alien creature from 40K.
Yeah.
But then eventually, like this is speaking of the white, you get to this. This is something I painted last year. So you get like this is all white. So the idea with this armor was everything was energy and was red. But this is like blood for the blood god paint that Ted likes so much. But like all of this, like it's not even dry brushing. Like a lot of this is just that contrast paint that I was showing you.
It's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks great. So there is dry brushing on this, but it just takes time. It takes time, and once you learn the techniques, that's all it is techniques. Because once you learn that 12 techniques, just swapping out colors, and it's the same for all the paints. So that's
really good though, man. I really like the shading on that main one. Like as it gets like. It goes from like dark to light as it goes down.
Yeah, it's super fun to do that. I have so much stuff to paint, and then eventually you get to one of these things. Now, I'm lucky that you're not making metal models. I hate metal models so much because they chip. they chip. You have to like
metal's the worst.
You have to put like a gallon and a half of matte varnish on it to make it not chip if it falls. This one isn't matted yet, so but like they start to chip after a while. Where the plastic models, even the resin models, like they can. This is in a bag. Like this is literally in just a plastic bag that I carry with me. So like, and it looks great. Doesn't break, doesn't chip. Everything's great there.
Have you experienced any of the Seacast models yet? Which is the kind of new. It's a resin, but it feels like PVC that a lot of the companies are making.
No, I haven't yet. I mean, I've mainly my 90% of my models that I paint now are plastic, and then occasionally I'll get some custom. Resin models printed up. I have one. I'll bring it out later. But there's sites that make third-party models if you don't like the way the official thing makes the demon prints or whatever. And because some of their stuff in Games Workshop is pretty goofy.
Yeah.
So I have a question, Chris. For somebody like myself who's a young whippersnapper, I'm not quite. I don't have as much skin in the game as you, especially in the realm of business. What is it? You are in business with your partner. What can you give me some advice? Because like that is for me like a really big goal. I'm like to go into business with somebody you love. I think that's such an awesome thing. Like what's the dynamic there?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, at the beginning, it's really nice because you get to spend so much time together. But then you get to spend so much time together. So it is very. We've been married like in a week or so's time. We're celebrating our 10th wedding anniversary, and we started our business 10 years ago. So we've done well to last.
Wow.
But it is really tough, because you end up, you're sitting in bed talking about work, and you've got to try and not do that. But because you're running a business, you end up sitting in bed talking about work because there's some problem that it's both on your minds, and you're kind of just, you found a moment in the day to talk about it. And it's great because you can just go away together and do, we've sat on a beach sitting on our computers on doing emails, and we can go away more because we can just work whenever we want. But it is stressful because we at one point we were in different buildings, not in the same office, because you argue about stuff, and because there's less barriers between you, like there would be as if you were two colleagues, you do argue more, and but at the same time you make up stuff, you can get stuff done quicker, and you trust each other because she looks after all the money, and so I totally trust her with all the money, and she lets me get on with all the mad ideas, and helps me just kind of get things moving like that. So it is really difficult, but it's an amazing thing if you trust each other and you can, you kind of get on, and you just got to try and keep work in the day job and make sure you keep your personal time as free of work as possible. It's hard, but yeah, I'd never say don't do it, but I'd also say it's going to be really tough.
Yeah, it's a bit of give and take.
She's saying it is working. We are working. We're not divorced yet.
No, you guys are coming up on 10 years. I think that's such an awesome thing. And I always hear the term, keep business and relationships and stuff separate. But I feel like sometimes the best business is done through, great relationships, strong relationships for the most part.
Sure. Yeah. And in a weird way, it also helps the relationship because you can't just have that, a week where you just don't talk to each other and you just go off and do something different, because you've got to talk to each other about work.
Yeah.
And so in a way that brings you back together, because you've got to just, you've just got to be professional and get on with stuff. And, and that helps, so it's, you've just got to have a good heart and don't let stuff get in the way of the relationship. So.
Hey, and I've been on conference calls where she brought you cake.
Oh yeah,
oh, man. No one's ever brought me cake on a conference call.
I'm a very, very, very lucky man.
Yeah. Oh man. What are we looking at here, Gregums?
So this is just a little bit of, you can kind of see the progress. This is like one of the first things I ever painted was this little termagant. This is something I painted a few years later. You can already tell from, it's kind of hard to tell on the camera, but the shell work is a little bit brighter, like there's a little more texture to it. This is actually a mod, so this isn't a real unit. I took bits and pieces from other units and put them together to make a unique
what is that, Kit Bash?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then you say when you get really up there, this is one I'm currently working on. It takes multiple days. You can just kind of see how the texture and stuff and how you work out your techniques looks a little better. Oops, too big.
See, kit bashing is something I can understand because I don't paint minifigs, but I do build Gundam models.
Yeah. And
gunplay is all about kit bashing and building your own giant robots out of parts from other kits that you have left over. So I get that. Yeah, that spider is insane, man. This is something newer you've been working on?
Yeah, this is part of the Epic Encounters line. I just liked the model and I got it. So not all my models I buy are just D&D or Warhammer. Sometimes I'll just buy a model because I like the way it looks and just want to paint it.
Let me say, if I was playing D&D and you put that on the table, I would be scared and probably just try and break it.
It's not even done yet. Yeah, I still got to do all the highlights.
Knock it off the table and run.
Yeah. Greg should know better than spider stuff around me. This is probably what Sam, our Australian correspondent, is dealing with every single day of his life.
Nice.
That's man, he sent us some pictures of some spiders, man. Boy, oh boy. He even wrote an article about it. And he was like, it's quote unquote top 10 spiders, which I do not like to read. Do not like looking at that article.
You don't want to see our Elder Scrolls spiders then. They're not fun.
So, I did this. I think I'm going to pretend I did this on purpose because, as you can see in the reference photo here, it's a lot brighter than what I ended up doing, and that's because my base coat was too dark, and I think instead of a black wash, I should use a red one. So I can start over though. I'm just going to rebase and then re-wash with a brighter color, and that should give us more of the thing we're looking for. Which is that.
So how long does painting something like this Fallout figure normally take you, Greg?
Anywhere from 2 to 4 hours.
Oh wow! From start to finish, complete.
Yeah. That's not including the basing. The basing is another whole process. Because I've painted so many swarm armies. For those who don't know what that is, that's an army that you filled a ton of models. It's a ton of one-hit models that aren't very good, as opposed to a Space Marine army where you have 10 models that are really good and really expensive. So it's an assembly line process for me most of the time. But if I sat down and did start to finish, maybe anywhere from 4 to 6 hours from painting, basing, and sealing. So the time adds up a lot. But yeah, I'm going to redo this one. paint him a brighter red. I'm going to do Evil Scarlet for the base, because that is a little closer. I wasn't sure how this was going to look with the wash on, so we'll do that now, though. So it's okay. You can always paint over it if you mess up. Now, you can only do that so many times before it starts to clump up, but these paints are so thin, it's really hard to make it clump unless you're really tacking it on there, so.
Nice. Let's see. So you don't have to wash the other paint off or anything like that.
Nope.
You just
paint right over it. Now,
Sweet.
it is dark, which is unfortunate, so I might need to do another layer, but I'm just going to kind of get all the excess wash off here.
Making a happy little brother of steel.
Happy little Nuka-Cola brother of steel here. It's just too dark.
Yeah.
It's too dark. And
Happy little. It's a happy, but that's a happy mistake too, right, Greg?
It's a happy little mistake.
Happy little mistake.
You can always reprime too if you really feel like you want to change it up.
That little base of darker red underneath, that's going to be our little secret.
Yeah, just no one's gonna know. No one's gonna know but us on the stream.
No one's gonna know, man. So let's see. Do you have any other stuff that's kind of in progress to show off or anything like that, Greg?
Yeah, I do. I have everything. I thought I had everything in reaching distance, but I did not.
Gotta kind of roll. You gotta do a little scooch. Look at that. There he goes.
He's off.
What's he got? What's he got for us?
Here comes the toys.
So here's part of a horde. This is a horde's model. It's called the I forget what it's called. It's the Fountain of Warboros or whatever. And I just did all the red first because I'm going to paint it like a sandstone yellow. So this is kind of where it starts. This isn't actually Blood for the Blood God paint because that's actually too dark. This is actually a custom paint that I found on eBay, and I had some on over here. Oh, the cats knocked him over.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Pets and these figures, like, how do you protect all your stuff?
Oh, they're like in cases. I have like all these cases everywhere, because they do, like Sadie especially. She likes to grab models by the and like go take them into her like little nest. Sometimes we found.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fun. But so this is an example. Like Ted, you like Blood from the Blood God. The problem with that paint is it's too clear and not bright enough for me. Like it's all this is a slightly brighter red, but it's the same effect as Blood for the Blood God. The exact same glossy kind of wet finish. It makes it look like water or blood. These are called.
Yeah, I saw you had that Tamiya acrylic red, and I have to be so careful with that because it's got a real strong chemical smell. But it's good. I did. WizKids does like invisible hellhounds, and so then I hit them with that Tamiya transparent, so it looks like they're like weirdly crystalline and on fire at the same time.
Yeah, I mean they're cool. It's weird too because it's like flammable and it has a really, but it's acrylic based. So for those who don't know, acrylic means it's a water based paint. So it's weird that they have flammable and it smells so strong because acrylic paints should not have a smell to them. Oil paints
that you have to leave the room while you're working on it every now and again.
Because you just it starts to go to the head a little bit, you know.
Here's one that's been based and washed and dry brushed, but it's metal, so it's already like it's been sitting there and it's already chipping. That's the thing with metal models. So you have to paint them really quickly and then seal them, or else you'll get a ton of chips. Like there's a chip there, chip on his hand, chip on his thing. There's chips everywhere, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's literally just been sitting in a cupboard. So it's just they get really sensitive with the metal models.
It kind of looks like a nacho cheese chip.
Right, it does. Yeah, Cheeto, like a Cheeto.
So, Greg, really quick, I wanted to know, how long did it take you to really like refine your craft in painting? I mean, obviously everything you've shown us looks really awesome, but I would imagine once upon a time there was a much different Greg behind the brush. How long did it take you to basically become the man you are today with this?
I mean, to go from like not to be to just to be honest, to go from here to here. Oops.
Here, from your little lizard man
here
to your giant ghost monster.
10 years, 10 more or more. About it, just you never stop learning. You never stop learning. Like that's the thing. Like you're always experimenting. Like I said, like, these contrast paints came out a couple of years ago, so they're relatively new. So you're always learning new techniques.
Yeah. And how many hours do you paint a week, Greg?
Well, I do a paint night. I used to do paint nights every Friday with a small group of friends, and then the pandemic hit, so we stopped that for 2 years. But I'm starting to get a little brave now and having them over. So I usually paint once a week for about 8 hours on Friday. We start at like 6 and paint till like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh wow! Paint like the wind.
Usually pick one thing. I've been painting a ton of. So I have another friend who's in the hobby. Like this is a whole hobby, right? You have to buy the box, put it together, prime it, paint it, seal it, put it on the table to play. The part that I don't like is the putting it together. Chris, I loved the detail of your models, but my God, I had to take tweezers to put on the arms and the things that were so tiny and like hold them there. So we do like a little exchange. Like I give him all my sprues, which is like the flat things that you cut out to put them together, and I paint all his Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So because he likes putting it together and not painting it. I like painting it and not putting it together.
Yeah, good plan.
So now,
Howdy Tilted at work. Welcome to the chat for the first time.
So we're gonna make this guy brighter now, and you'll see.
It's talking about like real small minis to put together. Have you done any of the Malifaux ones?
No, I always said like this is my limit. Like this right here.
There's
like,
actually I forget the name of the character, but there's actually a joke that even the company is on board with, where it says, "I survived this character's beard," because there's like this one character that the beard is a piece.
Wow.
And it's like microscopic to glue on the model. Every time I buy a Malifaux, I'm like, I'm gonna pay for this.
Oh,
I'm gonna pay in sheer fury.
I mean, it's not
like,
it's not
it's
easy.
so
Yeah.
cool when it's done.
It's
and
not
they're
easy.
not even on sprues. There's like full parts.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, when you were designing these, I'm sure you had to make some really tough decisions over overhang and how many pieces the sprues had to be. Like this particular guy, this particular person, to get her arm is a separate piece, and so was her hand. So getting her arm on, which is just her bare arm, and then the hand was it was so meticulous. I was like, I have to hold it for a minute here. But I did it.
Was that their hard plastic set?
Yes.
That you got. Oh yeah. So with those started life as they were going to be resin pieces, and then we realized that we could go to hard plastic. So they weren't really designed for hard plastic, and you really should sculpt with hard plastic in mind. And so they ended up being more pieces than we would have liked. Saying that, I think the set, considering it was our first ever plastic set, and there's so many horror stories of people doing plastics for the first time, that I think they came out all right. But yeah, there was a few pieces. That's why I personally like resin more, because typically you get like 3 pieces to a model.
It's chemistry, right? I mean, like plastic. Well, what type of plastic? Like there are 1,000 different types of plastic. Or resin. Well, what type of resin? And you're like, I don't know the good kind. I don't like. What do you want from me? Yeah. It all depends on what you're going for and what your budget is and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah,
I have a question.
Bright and red, much better.
So I mean, we've seen just the fantastic work that you've done with Fallout and then just everything. And I don't know, maybe you can't answer this, but is there a company that you wish you could work with, that you would really want to like collab with and make figurines? If you can't say anything, I completely understand, but I'm just always wondering like how future forward thinking a person like yourself is.
Oh yeah, we think we're kind of planning about 3-4 years out. There is one that I would have been the one I would love to do, and we're now doing it.
Can't say yet though.
Shacknews exclusive. Sounds good. What?
There's others I'd love to do. I mean, like Star Wars is a big, I've been a Star Wars fan since I was a kid, and that's very much with Fantasy Flight Games and Asmodee and the guys that do the Marvel Crisis games as well.
They have Legion.
Yeah, Atomic Mass, yeah, and they've done a great job with Star Wars, and I think the the Star Wars Legion miniatures game. I was talking to the Asmodee guys, going, yeah, why aren't you doing 10mm Star Wars? So I want to do the Battle of Hoth. It's like, come on, do the Battle of Hoth. It's going to be amazing. They're like, yeah, all right. But yeah, so I think Star Wars would be fun one day. But at the same time, the trouble is once you work on it, then it's work as well. And I think some things should stay as something that you're a fan of. Mm-hmm. You can't do everything. And, we work on Star Trek, which is equally, I grew up watching Captain Kirk rock around the universe. and that was a dream come true to just be working on it. And I've met some of the cast and stuff like that, and it's pretty amazing. And I think, at what point do you don't want to get too close to everything, otherwise it becomes boring. So but then again, if someone said, hey Chris, do you want to do something for Star Wars, I'll be like, hell yes.
There you go. No, I completely understand. I do think there should be a healthy balance between hobbies and work. It just so happens that yours happens to be kind of all slammed into one. So
and I only work on stuff I love as well. Mm-hmm. So and we're fortunate as a company. We've got to the point where I've done loads of stuff I love now, and what I look for now is stuff that other people in the company love, because so that we can make more people happy in the business, doing things that they love as well. But it is important to start with the things that you really, really care about, because you're going to end up working on a Saturday night or a Sunday morning or a Monday at midnight, because it's your business.
That's right. Has there ever been a company that approached you? And you don't have to name any names, but has there ever been a company that approached you and you're just like, hell no, I'm not making figurines out of that. Like, are you kidding me?
Yes. There's been companies that we've not wanted to do for social conscious reasons, maybe, right. Or when we had a chance to work, with Games Workshop, but that was to do a role-playing game. We were pitching for the RPGs, but the trouble is we were competitive, because as soon as you do paint guides for miniatures, you are a competitor for them, which is, it's nice to think that they think we're a competitor, but they see that as in their territory. So we couldn't work with them, and some wonderful people, good friends of ours, like Cubicle 7, ended up getting the rights, which is amazing. So
that's interesting. Games Workshop in particular is interesting because people, like, they're not, yes, they make models and it's interesting, but at their core they're a printing publisher. Like, that's what they do. They make books and they print rules, you know what I mean? And that's how they made their business for years.
I mean,
they've had to pivot,
I know their whole business model is really about selling toy soldiers to kids. That is everything exists. Every shop exists to get their miniatures into the hands of kids. And our whole industry is thankful to them and to Wizards of the Coast for getting either Dungeons and Dragons or Warhammer into the hands of young kids, because then a lot of those grow up and go, oh, I wonder what else there is I could buy that's a toy soldier or a role-playing book, and then they filter out to all the other companies like us.
Yeah, I mean, the whole tabletop RPG industry, I feel, has been like exploding over the last few years. Like, a lot, I've been playing the longest D&D campaign of my life, basically since the pandemic began. And it was hard to, and it was like, it's because it's tough to corral people and get something going on a regular basis to begin with. Like, it's always like herding cats. But then once we were locked in, it was like the way that it was like one of our only means of socializing in a lot of ways, was like tabletop RPG night. Online, of course. But yeah, I mean, like, did you guys feel the impact of that?
Yeah. So we saw a lot of sales of miniatures, because suddenly everyone was painting their collections, because it's something you could do on your own. That was quite a big thing. And we had so many people were buying PDFs because they could, they were just stocking up on stuff to read. But we were really fortunate. We did really well, and we had a great year and kind of held our own. A lot of companies suffered. I think board games companies suffered because they're so reliant on, if you can't, there's no point buying board games if you can't play them with your friends. I think, people still did buy stuff, but there was a lot of people were thinking twice about buying board games during COVID, if it was for a big gaming group. So, but you look at Roll20, they exploded, the big online gaming platform. They've got 10 million users now. A lot of the big, platforms did really well out of it. And And suddenly there's a big thing for solo war games. Solo war games are definitely here to stay. I mean, that's been my big thing is miniature games that you can play on your own or play with a friend against the game. So we don't want to compete against Privateer and Workshop trying to do tournament games. There's no point. They do it really well. So, and that it was on the rise before COVID, and COVID just like gave this new genre this whole injection of adrenaline, and pushed loads of people into solo gaming.
Nice. And you guys are you working with Roll20 as well now?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we've got a number of titles in work with them, and some stuff that's already come out. So, and we're going to be doing a lot more. They've they're doing a big revamp of their look and feel and the interface and things like that. So I think they've realized that they're in a really good position to kind of appeal to a wider market as well. A lot of these platforms are quite they're quite complex to use. It's not just like a map that you can use and roll some dice over it. It's got a lot of setup and everything, and I think they're all realizing they've captured a lot of the kind of hardcore gamers, but there's millions of people who just casually play D&D who want something that's really easy to use, and they can just jump on now and play. Not wait a minute, I need half a day to set this up and figure out how stuff works.
They're not doing 8-hour painting sessions every Friday like Greg.
No.
It's
They're
interesting.
not putting in the effort. Damn it! No. I use Roll20. I have one of those.
Better.
And yeah, you feeling that more, Greg?
Yeah, it's much better. It's funny, Chris, you bring up Privateer Press because they're dealing with what Games Workshop dealt with 10 years ago, where it's like there's too many models in circulation and no one's buying them, and the combination of not updating rule sets in a competitive game also hurts a game negatively in terms of party. So you can't make too many. Chris, you're doing all this you've been figuring it out still. You're still going for figuring it out. But you don't want to have too many models in circulation because that's bad. Because then people start selling third party and you don't get any money from that. And it's you got to make sure you make just enough. And if people want more, then you make more. If you make too much and flood the market, it can be bad.
Yeah, it's really tricky. We moved away from doing models in blisters. Lots of people, lots of people, usually is a handful of people on the internet, not actually enough to justify making them. Lots of people like individual miniatures, but actually shops hate walls of blister packs because it just takes up so much space, and a handful of them sell, and you have to have so many SKUs, and a lot of companies ended up with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of SKUs of all these little blisters.
Yeah.
And they're not very visual, whereas we've moved to having a couple of nice boxes that are very clear what's in the box, and it's one or two of those a month, which is still a lot. I mean, you imagine over a year that's somewhere between 12 and 24 sets of miniatures, and after 2 or 3 years it's a heck of a lot of sets. So you can't keep everything in stock, and and that's we're actually planning to move some of our sets into plastic, so that we can free up some of the resin capacity to focus on the smaller product runs, and the big sellers we keep them in plastic. So it's hard work. It's going back to that thing about when is it enough, right? Because we're also used to miniature games well, if there's nothing coming out, it must be dead. But isn't there a point where I've got enough? There's enough sets of miniatures. I can just collect what's there, maybe buy more of some of them. So there's this weird logic we've got ourselves into that if there isn't new sets coming, then the game's broken.
With competitive games specifically, yeah. I mean, with RPGs, I think you're a little safer in that regard.
RPGs, with Conan and Infinity, we did about 20 books. Actually, Mutant Chronicles was about 17. And people were saying, why aren't you doing more Conan books? It's because we'll just make stuff up. Literally, we've done everything that there is about Conan, and we've fleshed it out. And there's a point where you've just got to go, it's enough, right? You've got enough Conan. Right. Seriously, if you haven't got enough Conan in 20 books, I don't know what to give you. So, and of course you can always do more adventures and things. And with miniatures, with competitive games, you need stuff that mixes up the rules, don't you? Like, okay, we've got this new thing. I remember with Infinity when they brought out there was a month where they brought out a medic. You know, every faction got a medic. So then this is like a new thing. Wait a minute, if I put a medic in my force, that gives me maybe an advantage. And so now you've got this new tactical mix. And our games aren't, you know, the Fallout and Elder Scrolls isn't really, I mean, people do play it competitively, but overridingly, anytime we do research, people seem to be playing it in a kind of narrative way. They're playing it cooperatively, they're playing it solo, or they're playing it as a competitive game, but where there's a whole bunch of storytelling going on the table, and it's not really about, well, can I destroy, you know, 200 points of your force?
Yeah, it's
much more about the story playing out. So our thing is more about, really, you know, when are the gunners coming, or when is the NCR coming, because I want to play with the NCR, or when is there, you know, we just released, you know, Grognak the Barbarian is coming, so people want him, you know, on their force.
And are always asking for alternate sculpts too, but that takes a lot of work as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, and it, you know, we're getting there. It's, you know, you forget how much, especially when there's so many sets you've got to keep in work, and you know, and you want to support the next range, and you got to do something more for the super mutants as well as introduce some stuff for the gunners, so keeping every faction happy, that feel like they're still getting some love, or there's some, you know, other characters that they can use. It's a tough one, you know. My goal is to do. I want to be able to create a store event, for example. I'm calling it tournament, but it's not a tournament, where you all play together against the game, and so you're all helping each other. Mm-hmm. No, there's no like competitive, like I'm not going to tell you the rules because I don't want you to win. Like if you're playing with each other against the story, then against the game, you can help each other with the rules. Like it's going to be a really good buzz about the whole event. Everyone's winning. There's going to be a secret story unveiled that day. And my goal is to make an event that is so good that every store wants to run it because it's more fun than a tournament. You know, there's the old joke about war games that two people go to play a war game and one walks away happy.
Yeah.
And I want to get away from that, because and the great thing is I hate balance in game. I hate points values, because no battle in history was balanced, and I love playing a completely unbalanced battle, because maybe I can pull it off, but it'll be down to me, right? It'll be down to my tactics and maybe the luck of the dice.
You got moxie, you got luck, you got chutzpah, you know.
Yeah.
You got to take all that into consideration.
And maybe you just got to get off the board, right? You just got to retreat. That's part of the story.
Yeah, I mean, I've got like an ominous aura, right? So if you're playing a game against me, you might worry that something could happen outside of the game, giving me the psychological advantage. You know, yeah. It all plays into it. Not that you should be scared of anybody, but you know.
Our big challenge at the moment is I want to make the game where it's more fun to lose. Like it'd be like everyone's like, man, I want to lose because I want to lose. And let me clarify that, where there's two options, right? Do I want to win the battle and then get the victory points? But over here, if I go over here and I do this thing, I get to find out who my dad was. And if I find out who my dad was, I get this cool new unit for the next battle. Or I get my dad's magic sword that's going to mean that I get to summon the dragons. Whatever it is, it's like the story evolves in the campaign in such a cool way that I'm willing to lose the game to Greg.
Oh, man.
But Greg then wins the victory points and gets something else cool. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like
the tabletop RPG aspect, like it can be competitive, but it's imagination, right? It's just like the DM should be having the DM's goal shouldn't be to kill everybody. It should be to like have a good time with everybody and have a journey where, like you said, where you have two players playing a competitive game. It's who wins. Like that's
I'm now just picturing a board game where like somebody has like my deadbeat dad like behind a closet door somewhere, and they're just like, we can win the game or finally meet your father.
Yeah.
Papa? Is that you, Papa?
You guys were asking
man. What? Go ahead, Greg.
You guys were asking me how I store these. Like I brought one out, so I can't make it large because my setup. But like this is, I have.
It's okay.
I have 4 of these,
Oh wow!
Oh, wow.
And they're all full. So like I have too many armies as it is, too many models.
I like it with the glass. I've never seen one with the glass side to it.
Yeah, they're custom built.
Wow.
Some guy in Texas makes them. He takes old makeup cases, puts acrylic in it, and does some modding so they lock.
Nice.
Are they all gonna...
Are they magnetized?
Yeah,
as well?
they're all on trays. The trays actually slide out, so it's modular, which is
Nice.
even the best
Wow.
case I've ever found. That's why I have 3 of them.
Oh wow! Yeah, I thought stuff was gonna fall over when you picked that up.
Yeah.
Oh, take it out. No, it's pretty good. I wouldn't turn them upside down, but they're definitely not going to move if you're carrying them around. So.
Mm.
Let me pull the tray.
Man, Greg. Wow.
That's amazing.
So they're all on a tray. Here, so you can.
Oh wow,
place
that's
the tray,
cool.
and they're all magnetic, so they don't fall.
That's brilliant.
See, the klutz that I am, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I'm just a big klutz.
So where do you? Is this what you take when you play your Warhammer games with your friends, Greg? Is that what you carry it all in?
Yeah, it's basically how I move it. There's some other ones too because people have experimented. I have some other cases that aren't as good. That foam. I was a big advocate of foam for a while, but now magnetic is the way to go.
Yeah, because the foam can still break stuff, can't it?
Yeah, the foam
pushing.
is good for I think foam's good for shipping them because they don't move as
Right.
I wouldn't ship something magnetic or even check it in checked baggage because it's gonna all break. But foam is pretty safe. When I travel, I used to go to tournaments a lot for War Machine and Hordes. I would carry it in foam rather than magnetic cases because it was all nice. Actually,
Yeah.
I'll go grab one of the cases now. I'll show you. Hold on.
Yeah, Greg is pretty legit, huh, Snake Wasp? He is committed to this as a hobby. I'm just curious, did Ted or Chris, did you guys have anything you wanted to show off? Anything special from your collections?
Yeah, I was funnily enough doing a house move has dug up some real classics, right? So I've got a few games from my childhood. So I mean, you'll all know this. Oh, hold on.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that some old school D&D right there?
Oh,
That is the original blue book.
Oh wow,
Amazing.
My name and address in the inside. So this was the my first D&D game. So that I played that when I was 7 years old, and my mum got my brother to take me off to this game night to get me out of the house because I was spending too much time around. I was a bit of a shy kid, and that's it got me going. And then this game, Ogre.
Okay.
Steve Jackson's Ogre. So this is my mum took me to see a sister who ran a cattery, right? And I'm allergic to cats, so it's a bit like your mum going, "Do you want to have flu for the weekend? Because it'll be really fun." So anyway, so we got out of the house and went to this knitting shop. I don't know, why I went in, but at the back of the shop there was this whole rack of games like this, which was mental. And so I bought this, and it blew my mind because first of all, there's this giant tank that's firing missiles and lasers on the front, and you've got a whole army of heavy tanks and missile tanks that one player has to control the small tanks and try and take down this giant cybernetic monster of a tank.
Speaking of unbalanced,
Yeah,
it's the king of unbalanced games. And
Yeah.
shoot the treads. Always go for the treads.
yeah,
Oh man,
yeah, exactly.
Steve Jackson, man, I love Steve Jackson. Illuminati, the card game,
Yeah.
is one of my all-time favorite things ever.
No, Munchkin,
This one
the game
is
about
really
losing
cool.
friends. That's the best game ever.
Yeah,
So this
So
was
cool.
the Lords of Death.
metagame. So there we go. Is it the Lords of Underearth? So this was Underearth. Underearth is the ancient stronghold of the Dwarven Lords. This game covers the earthly realm's full history from the height of Dwarven power to its decline, the days of dragon fire destruction. Here you will lead bands of humans, dwarves, orcs, and monsters on raids, wars, and treasure hunts. So this was I'm probably got this when I was about 10 to 11, and so I'm like D&D, right? You're like a little crew, 5-6 of you going into a dungeon. This is a full army of dwarves storming into their old hold, trying to fight off the orcs and goblins inside and kill the dragon. And so it was just like, that's mental.
And
And then the other thing that really blew my mind, do you remember this?
Yes, we just finished that last weekend.
Did
Expedition
you?
to Barrier
Modern-
Peaks. Yeah, I ran the modern version of it.
So this is the, I mean, spoiler alert, right? If you've not played this, but this is the, and it, you know, this is when, sorry, my background is not letting you see that very well, but this is like you would get books of imagery. Let's see if I can hold this out. Oh God, there we go. So you get books of like artwork to show people, like, okay, you find this thing. And
it looked like it was censored when Ted held it. I was like, censored. Can't play.
Yeah, that's right. And you were, so what was cool was that about this was I played in a game of it and I had to go and buy it straight after. I was probably like 12 or 13. And you're D&D group and you end up going into this big dungeon and it's metal and it's basically a spaceship that's crashed. And it blew my mind about this whole idea, like, wait a minute, spaceships and it's a post-apocalyptic spaceship, so it's all bashed up and all skeletons, and there's this ancient mystery around it. When I ran it, I had an alien. I actually was like, no, I'm going to have like an alien still alive in there, and he's like been waiting for help, and I totally changed the story. But it was like, those like moments when you're like, this is cool. I can do stuff with this, so since then I've loved post-apocalyptic sci-fi, and there was another game. There was Gamma World, of course, the kind of D&D after the war, but Metamorphosis Alpha, which was basically D&D on a giant colony ship that had flown through a radiation storm, and everything had gone to hell, and there were talking badgers and walking plants, and you could be one of those, or you could be a tribes person that grew up on the Sahara level and then goes adventuring and discovers a metal wall, and eventually start fighting robots and crazy people from the other levels. So has anyone watched the film Pandorum?
No.
Oh, it's an amazing sci-fi film. That's like it's like the reserve crew of a big colony ship get woken up because the reactor's going critical, and they can't get in touch with any of the other decks, and the door to their bridge, their reserve bridge, is blocked. So one of them has to crawl out through an air duct. And basically, it's cannibals running loose because it's been so long since the ship broke down, and it's insane. You've got to watch it; it's brilliant, and it's just like Metamorphosis Alpha. So well worth it.
And
it's
Team or Space Hulk, a lot like those games. You ever play those games, Chris?
Yeah.
Little tactical, narrative games that you have to clear out the bridge or the ship or the nest or whatever.
Yeah, the good old Space Crusade, if you remember that.
8-Bit Wizard wanted a bigger close-up of this box so everyone could see it.
Nice.
It up, so yeah.
Great.
He like the pandemic, he sold out instantly because everyone wanted to buy them. He's like, I've sold more in the last month, the first month of the pandemic, than he has last 2 years. So he was on backorder. So you're lucky to grab one. I think they're not that bad either. They're like $180 a piece, so they're not terrible. Compared
Looks
to
like a modified music game.
It's a modified makeup case. Yeah, it's a modified makeup case that he uses, as opposed to foam, right? Which is what I used to carry them with.
It made me think of those PCs that have a clear side to them so you can see all the cool lights inside.
Yeah, you got what is it? The 9080s in there? What is it? The RTXs, some ray tracing.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. The 380 Ti, yeah. This is a one that this is $100. So that was only the other, which is nicer. It's only $80 more. This is a small one I take to tournaments. You have custom foam trays for the specific models you want to bring. This is what the foam and they do stay a little safer in here. They don't they're not these ones. My horse stuff isn't magnetized because I haven't learned how to do that yet. But going back to I'll switch back to the close-up shot. Going back to that because Rodney was saying he's scared of painting. This is where I started. This is where it is, and these look terrible. This is something that it's one of the second things I painted. So it's all globbed on. It looks bad. The dry brushing. There's no texture to it. The flesh looks okay, but then you go from that to where's my big piece here? Something like this. When you get your technique down and you learn how to do it right, you you can actually get a lot of detail.
My computer's so slow. I'm like at least a minute behind, so it's gonna pop up.
Oh man, yeah, those scales,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Wow.
And like the basing
That's
too.
really
Like the
good.
basing takes time. Is what takes the time afterwards. So you put little things on it.
What game's that?
This is
What game's that from, Greg?
War Machine. This is War Machine.
Oh,
I used to
okay.
play that game competitively before I realized that it was making my life end quicker.
You've also got like I love that you got all the like the foliage and stuff on the ground.
Yeah, it's all the
Like-
basing stuff, which is really cool. I like doing that stuff.
So does that is all that stuff on the base when you start, or do you add that in as you create
No,
it?
see, Chris's bases are nice enough to give you like texture to paint. So all I have to do on these bases is kind of paint them, wash them, and dry brush them, and they're done. But these bases are completely barren. So then you have to they're just flat. There's no texture to them at all. So I have to put dirt on it, and then seal it, and then take tweezers and put the little patch of grass, like that's like its own little thing, and the flock I add on. This is one of the.
Wow.
This is when I started to get really brave with bright colors because they're not, like I said, they're not easy to paint.
Yeah, dude, I like that gold trim on the armor there.
What would you say your most difficult piece was to paint?
I don't know if it's like it's a single piece. I think it's more like the routine of doing it all. There's just a lot. Like when you play, let me put this back in. The smaller the piece generally means it's more difficult. The thing I like about War Machine and Hordes, which is what I was showing you here, is that their pieces are nice. They don't have a ton of detail because Games Workshop goes completely like crazy. Chris, even your models are very detailed. Like there's a lot of intricate detail in them, with like creasing of clothes and things on their belts. The more intricate detail the stuff is, the longer it takes to paint because you have to go in and paint each one. So I'd say the smaller the model, the more difficult it could be, just in general.
Do you paint anything like 10 mil or 15 mil scale?
No, it's too small. It's too small. I'm like, that's so small.
Oh man.
See, like even this, like here's some gremlins. I'll show you. They're not based, but there we go.
Ooh,
But even
little
then,
group of gremlins.
these are 40, so it's 40 scale, 40 millimeter scale, so they're pretty big.
Yeah.
Wow. That's still, man, that's a lot. I can't handle that. Like, I don't think I can. I don't have the patience or the skill to paint something that tiny.
It just takes time. But like, yeah,
Exactly.
But sometimes, like the small stuff, I'm just like, nope. Even with Games Workshop, I'm like, nope. Too small, too much detail. I don't want to have to paint 87 of those. You know what I mean? I'm only gonna paint. I'm only gonna paint 4.
Oh man,
But like,
I've got
here,
something.
I'll show you something here.
I'll be right back.
Another tray.
Oh, let's see it, Blake.
Oh.
This
Dude,
burnout.
I love painting small minis because I like the buckles and all the other stuff on them.
They have
Oh,
those
yeah.
other larger ones too. It's just not the. There's too many. It could be burnout. So I'll show you an example of what burnout is. So like, I took a 6-month hiatus after I finished this. Because like other than let me switch out the camera. So like, those are all basically the same model. So you're painting the same thing 36 times. So it gets really like tedious after a while, and you're just like, I need a burnt out, and that's the problem with swarm armies. But it's great practice. So like, you just get it all down, like you know how you do it. Oh, they're all this color, then I dry brush this, and I wash this, then I highlight this, and then I make this glossy, and you're pretty much done. But it just takes so long to do. So
All right. So I don't paint any miniature figures. I do have some miniature figures though. I've bought. There's this like nano metal figure steel series from what is it, Jada Toys, Greg? I think you talked with them about this, but they do like an X-Men line.
It's
of,
Sabretooth.
Yeah, figures that I really dig. Little Jean Grey here.
Oh wow.
Dark Phoenix form, and of course,
Hey,
I got like Wolverine.
that's my guy.
But yeah, then I realized I've actually painted stuff before. It's none of it's miniature, but it's all like DIY custom. There's this company called Kid Robot. And they have a series of figures called like Money, Munny, and basically they'll always get a bunch of like famous like contemporary artists to paint figures and things like that. But they also do a series of blank vinyl figures that you can DIY paint yourself. And so I started doing that for a while. So I got this little dude, which is a zombie I painted. Took one of the arms off. It's like a Shaun of the Dead homage. But yeah, let's see, packed it up. And then the other thing I did was I cut the head open with a hot knife, put a hinge on the back. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
so this is
cool.
like, I used to have a bunch of gummy worms in there. They went stale, of course, but yeah, I painted a bunch of these. I don't have them all because I actually ended up doing like some charity auctions and stuff like that for them. But like the whole thing was I would, do something with a hot knife and open them up in some way. So I did one. There's this place called Children's Fairyland, and it's like a precursor to Disneyland here in Oakland, California, and it was an inspiration for it, and like kind of a local thing. They'll do art auctions to raise money for it. So I did one where it was like a kid having like sugar rush, and I like cut open like a bucktooth mouth for it and just shoved a bunch of peppermints in it, and like sold that as like a candy tray at the auction. But yeah, this is like what I was doing when I thought I could be an artist for a while when I was unemployed. It was like when Parks and Rec, when Ben loses his job and he starts doing claymation.
Oh,
it was sort of like my moment like that, where I'm just like, I'm just gonna paint vinyl figures and I'll get people to buy them. So,
nice. Well,
yeah.
On the topic of giving back, I'm actually on the website right now here, Chris, and I've seen there's a tab here about what you guys have been doing to help support the people over in Ukraine. And I think that's really awesome. The amount of money you guys have raised and just everything you're doing, that's so awesome to see.
Yeah, we raised with the help of a friend who doubled our money, $50,000 to start with, and then we launched this charitable project called Roll versus Evil. So the whole pitch was why fight evil on the tabletop if you don't do it in the real world as well. And so this friend of mine, he's committed to matching up to £100,000 or so, $130,000 of whatever we raise. So we're raising money for all sorts of little kind of frontline groups. There's a group who are helping disabled people and old age pensioners get out of some of the embattled cities like Kharkiv, and we're helping out an orphanage that's in Kharkiv get out as well, and getting them resettled with the kids there, because there's so many kids obviously with no parents. We've got a load of Ukrainian freelancers, and Rita, my wife, she's from Belarus, and that all kicked off over a year back with the crackdown on the election demonstrations there. Mm-hmm. We've been really trying to help where we can, and just try and do stuff where the money's going to get used in the next couple of days, not like maybe in a few months from really, really, really big charities. Mm-hmm. And the $1,000 or $5,000, whatever you send, is actually being used, and you can get pictures and see the results. So it's it's been great to be able to have a chance to do something.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up too. I'm glad you brought up like the whole concept behind like when it gets raised, it needs to be used, in a timely fashion. Because there's just so many companies out here obviously mishandling that type of stuff. And for what you guys do, it's a big community. It's all about getting people together and doing what you do best. And I love the support and everything you've been doing. I just thought that was amazing to see.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we're only having a small impact, but a lot of it is connecting people. There's all sorts of people doing great stuff. Like, there's the group doing the evacuation. There's another group we found who set up 2 hostels, and they paid for it for a few months. And so they're providing a place for people to go. So it's like, we've got them talking. And then there's, the orphanage that are trying to evacuate, like literally today because of the attack that's about to come. And then I got them talking to the group who are doing the evacuations, and they're like all helping each other. So, sometimes it's just being able to introduce people, which is amazing. But we've got more events coming, so You could take part as well. So it's the whole idea is just play a game and throw some dollars on the table. And if someone wants to re-roll the dice, it's fine. Just throw a few dollars down to roll the dice. And if you want to draw another card, it's fine. If you want to get another saving throw, it's fine. Any stupid excuse to put some dollars down and then throw it in. And like I said, every dollar we raise is doubled. Mm-hmm. So it's it really has an impact.
Yo, I love that, yo, and thank you for breaking that down too. Because I wanted to kind of read the whole thing, but I feel like it would just sound better if it came directly.
Yeah, no, sure, thanks. Weirdly, we were going to start it next year as a kind of, the whole thing was like, when you can, especially with human trafficking, there's people like kind of kidnapping women and children. You can point at someone and go, that person's evil there. If we can stop them, we save so many people. And we just thought, well, let's get it going now. We launched it. It was on the spur of the moment at Gamma, which is the big kind of tabletop trade show. A couple of weeks back, I was there and I was talking to Roll20. And they said, I mentioned what we'd just done to raise a bit of money. And they said, is there anything we can do? And I said, okay, can you email all 10 million people for me? and then I went around the whole show and said to everyone, hey, could you email all your fans this week about this thing? And we're going to launch it like tomorrow. And I just made it happen. And, thankfully my team were able to kind of take care of the work. And I got on a mission. I said, we're going to do this. And I just said, Eric, can you email your people? Can you email your people? So, over the course of that week, we just got so many big companies pushing it. And we're going to keep going. Like, we haven't got Games Workshop involved yet. We haven't got Wizards involved yet. So I'm on the hunt to kind of get up as high up the food chain there as possible to get them involved. And we've got so many more companies starting to do stuff, and we're building up. We've got a product releasing on Friday that's going to be in aid of Ukraine. It's like a little fun little game that you'll be able to buy. All the money goes to the projects we're supporting. And then there's more stuff. We're kind of planning some streams with people and getting people playing games where on stream you can say, I need a reroll. Someone get me a reroll. And they can just throw some money down on the Just Giving page and tag you, and then you can see, oh, thanks, Dave. I've got a reroll. So we want to get a load of stuff like that going in the next few weeks, because it's the problem's not going away. It's going to be, and of course all that terrible stuff we keep finding out about is going to get worse as well. So the more we can do, the better.
So I actually want to use this time real fast to also say as a PSA, wash your brushes when you're done, especially if you're dry brushing. Like, if you dry brush, like I normally go and wash this right now, but I'm on stream, so I won't. But like when you're done, wash this with soap and water. Like, do not just dunk it in the thing and spread it out and then lick it and put it back in your pot. Wash it. You will regret it later. It's how you extend the life of your brushes.
I've done that.
Wash your brush.
I've left some brushes overnight and regretted it.
You're like, oh no. So now we're actually going to get into white, and this is interesting because I hate painting in white, especially when you're highlighting. So,
well, no pressure, Greg. It's not like you're live streaming out to.
You gotta drain the water first. Remember to do that. Like, you have to have clear water when you're painting white, and you do want to, like, especially the Games Workshop white, you gotta water it down because it's a really weird consistency. So then we have my little thing here, and this is as close as I'll get to mixing. And I'll take a little bit of white here, this happy white, and put it in its happy little tray with its happy water.
Happy water are you putting it in alcohol? What's going on?
No, just water. Just
plain regular water.
Happy water. That's it. I'm copywriting happy water. I'm starting to bottle up just tap water. Call it happy water.
Selling it for $5. So it looks like all the joints, his shoes. All the joints, his shoes, and part of his helmet is white, and it's dirty white. So I'm gonna have to dry brush black over it or brown or something to make it look dirty.
You got it, Greg.
All right.
We believe in you. Everybody in chat, send Greg your energy right now for this.
Send me your bits. Nobody breathe.
Send some bits, some love bits to Greg. Uh-oh. Oh, no, it's ruined. You ruined it.
Nobody breathe.
It's all broken now. Greg. I feel like we're, like, commentating on a golf game suddenly. Greg, going in to paint the joints. Oh, look at that technique that he's using there. I think that's Stanislavski technique there, which is usually used for acting. Here, Greg has found a way to implement it into his painting, and there he goes. Oh, look at that kneecap.
Still too thick. More
Man,
you might have a career, Blake, in model commentary. I mean, I
Model painting commentary.
Yeah,
think
Blake,
so.
I'm gonna paint and you're gonna just narrate for me.
Just whisper. I'm gonna do some ASMR,
I'll start a stream this weekend.
Yeah.
ASMR minifig painting stream. I'm into it. I should probably actually learn how to do this because, like, I've been playing D&D now for a while. I don't have my own custom figure yet. I really want one. I have I have so I have a wizard outfit now because some friends of mine got married and they asked me to perform the ceremony and didn't want to do just the same old bullshit, you know. So I got like a wizard robe. I got like some wizard horns. I've got a custom made wizard staff. It's like a quartz that like glows. But I don't have like, so if I ever like go to play D&D with my friends in person ever, which we still haven't done, I'm ready to go. But I don't have like a figure though.
Wow.
So I think it's about time.
We've
Gotta
known
give it
each
a
other for
shot.
far too long for me to allow that to happen.
Man, I think I'm gonna have to give it a shot.
I gotta put an email over to you. You're gonna have to send me some details, and I'll fire up the 3D printer and some paint.
Oh man, I have a thing. I have like a character thing. I can send the image to you because we made 3D models to use on Roll20, but we didn't like print them out or anything. So yeah, I am down. Man, I am super down. Yeah, you know, we're here painting it. So I'm the Fallout figure, and I'm just. It seems like Fallout is a game that is pretty complementary to the tabletop RPG system of gameplay, right? Like a lot of the stuff that happens in the game behind it is basically like that RNG dice being rolled.
It's the Roll20 system, I believe, but you guys have a unique twist on it, Chris. I believe you have some custom dice and some other little stuff that you switch it to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a role playing. There's two role playing games. One which is an expansion for the miniatures game, and one which is like a full separate standalone 2D20 system. So we started with the expansion for the miniatures game because it was just like, what are the extra rules you need to be able to just turn what is almost a role-playing game, skirmish game on the table into an actual role-playing game. And that worked really well. And of course, not everyone, a lot of fans want miniatures and in their role-playing, and a lot of fans don't. So the other version is for those that want a much more developed role-playing experience and they don't want really to use miniatures. But no, it works pretty well. Yeah, it's we use a lot of colors, so it uses a kind of D20, but it's not 1 to 20. It's kind of more like a 1 to 10 in increments that gives. It means you know, if your skill is 1, 2, or 3 or less, you've actually got a kind of decent chance. Whereas even a 9 or less isn't a dead cert, you know, because there's still a 15% chance of failure. And we use various effect dice. So when you look at a weapon, you see that let's say a laser rifle has got range black, let's say range black and then blue, and then for long range, and then it does 1 black and 2 yellow damage. I'm just making it up at the moment, but the black dice is heavier damage, and the yellow punches through, tends to punch through armor. The green dice is a bit more accurate, so maybe a sniper rifle might use more green dice. And so it's very quick to see the dice that you roll and know what that weapon does, because if you're seeing more black dice, it's going to do a lot heavier damage. If you're seeing more yellow dice, it's going to do more penetration into armor. And the color coding of the range rulers is really easy for the brain to just pick it up. You don't have to remember numbers, which is a weird thing, but it's like one less set of numbers to remember whilst you're playing.
Yeah, it's like Fantasy Flight does a lot of that stuff. There are no numbers.
Yeah,
it's like just symbols.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am painting your red tubes white.
Paint those red tubes white. That's what we do here at Shacknews constantly. Let's see, guys.
Easy.
Ooh.
Easy.
Come on. Greg, how do you... Yeah, I don't know. I I shake too much, and I mean I can even see your hand shaking a little bit
Yeah.
as you're painting, because it is really difficult to just kind of like something so small.
It's even that
You're
small.
just trying to be so.
It says 40 millimeters is what I usually like painting, but Chris has a lot of detail on his little things that he did. So there we go. As you can see, it starts to come together really quickly once you start getting all the techniques down.
Yeah.
Hey, Big Wizard wants to know, Greg, can you talk about your painting setup besides brushes and paint? Are there any other accessories you recommend?
Lights. Have light. Either a cheap little LED light at like Home Depot or something. Just have something to give you an overlaying view of it, so you're not covering shadows with while you're painting, so you don't miss anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can kind of see one of the lights you have in the background there on your camera.
Mm-hmm.
But you've also got a ring light on your table right now, too.
I have a ring light on me. I have a little LED light down, and you can also you don't have to have one. You don't have to get a big $100 one. You can get like a little $20 one at Michael's or something. Just a little one that plugs in, and put it right over where you're painting. Make sure you have a ton of light, and make sure that it's daylight. So you want it to be that white light. Orange can throw off the colors, so make sure it's white. The light is white.
Nice, man. Greg, really plugging Michael's today.
Sorry, I am.
No, it's cool. No, just wait for those coupons to come in the mail. That's a pro tip.
And this is a little wooden thing that stores all your paints. I got it on Etsy for like $50. It came with like 4 different size ones, and I used to throw them all in a tackle box. You can do that too, but it's just easier to look at them and grab stuff because you can see all the colors.
Michael's is an arts and crafts store, Snake Wasp. It was actually the last place I worked before getting into the video game industry, like as a retail worker. And this is retail therapy. It's all coming full circle here. Wow.
It all works out.
It's getting deep. Yeah, Michael's. I was a picture framer before becoming a video games journalist. If you can believe that. It's not like Joanne Fabrics. It's cooler because I used to work there. No, it's like a craft store. It's great, but you can get custom picture frames there too. Yeah. Well, man, we're coming up on the top of the second hour here. Chris and Ted, I don't know how much time you have left or if you have anywhere to be, but yeah, we appreciate you guys coming by today. If you want to stick around, we're going to be broadcasting for a few more minutes.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to bail out, but so we've got to go and pick some stuff up. But it's been great hanging out with you guys and seeing handiwork on the table.
Give me those vehicles. Give me those vehicles, Chris. I want to see some large-scale 100mm vehicles soon for your Fallout role-playing game.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, you'll make that just for Greg, right?
Just for me.
Yeah. I'm going to get on that right now.
No, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for chatting with us. Where can folks go to find out more about Modiphius and maybe check out your games?
Well, it's really simple, modiphius.net, and that's the web store outside of North America. If you want to get cheaper local shipping inside the US, then it's modiphius.us.
I'm gonna put the.
You're your own distributor. That's a really good thing. You can buy direct.
Yeah,
that's good.
Helps gets folks some slightly better shipping costs because it's pretty insane at the moment. Or you can find our stuff in most local stores. If they don't have it, you can ask them for it. They can order it from pretty much any of the distributors, and all the usual suspects carry us online as well.
Is Alliance your distributor for stores? Do they carry your stuff? I know that's a big one. Is Alliance one of your distributors? I know that's a big one here.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
If your hobby shop isn't carrying Modiphius products, just go in there, kick down the door, slap them around a little. Say, what the hell is wrong with you? Get this stuff.
And we've got a great event program starting this summer. Lots of stores getting involved with in-store events and stuff as well across Fallout and Elder Scrolls and other games. And we'll be at Origins. So if you're coming there, come and check us out. We'll be at Gen Con. We'll be at PAX Unplugged. We'll be at UK Games Expo coming up in about 7 weeks' time as well.
Nice. Awesome. Well, any big games coming up that you want to?
We've got a really exciting game announcing on the 22nd, and there's going to be a live stream Not quite sure what time, but if you check out our news, you'll see there's a live stream that's about an hour long to unveil, and it's it's when you see it, you'll realize why we're doing it. But it's a kind of slow reveal and lots of secrets that kind of come out over that hour. And yeah, it's really exciting, big project. We've been working on a huge new IP. It's going to be a war game, miniatures, role-playing game, novels. It's like a big transmedia project we're launching. And so it's the first teaser announcement on the 22nd, and then the video on the 21st. So that's next week. And I've been working on it for about 2 years. So it's brilliant to finally be able to talk about it publicly.
Nice. Well, that's only about a week away.
Yeah.
How convenient. We didn't even try. That wasn't even planned. That wasn't even part of this whole thing. that's man. Don't you just love it when something like serendipitous like that comes together? I love it personally. Yeah. Well, Chris, thank you again for stopping by. We'll let you get out of here, Ted.
No
are you kicking it on the ones and twos, or you got to get going as well? I know you're a busy man.
Stay around for a little bit. This is a good way to avoid work. It's the end of my day.
All right, cool.
All right, guys. Well, look, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for everyone for listening. And do check out the stuff and keep your eyes peeled next week. So
yeah, come by anytime. Let's maybe we'll do a module next time or something.
Sounds good. All right, cool. All right, guys, take care.
Right.
Yeah?
Take care. Cheers.
Yeah. Bye.
Oh man. What a delightful gentleman.
He's just a good time to talk to all the time.
Man.
And that's not even as his PR guy saying that.
yeah, and it's cool because like he is obviously very passionate about what he does and knows tabletop RPGs quite well, and tabletop
our calls end up being two old dudes talking about playing original box D&D all the way up to stuff now, Oh, by the way, so you had asked if we brought anything along. I got to turn on my lights to see if you can see the detail on this, so I apologize for seeing me moving away on camera here.
That's okay.
Let's see if I get a decent enough light for this. So this was a year-long painting project.
Uh-oh.
This is Baba Yaga's hut.
Oh, wow. Great. Can we pull this up on the big screen really quick?
Yeah.
Hold on.
And this was about 10 to 15 hours, I want to say.
Wow.
All the basing stuff, so like fuzzies and things, came from my backyard.
Oh, nice.
Or like around the neighborhood. So I got this in a Reaper Miniatures Kickstarter, and it was like 3-4 years ago, and I stared at it for a year. I was afraid to screw it up, so it just sat on a shelf unpainted. And then finally I said, all right, that's it. And I spent like a good summer doing that. And then, let's see. So this, going back to talking about Citadel miniatures, this is the Weird Witch.
Oh, wow. I have seen this on your social streams. I remember that.
She's kind of hard to see. But all her basing, again, is all stuff I found in the neighborhood. So, like, even there's twigs down here, if you can see them. Those were broken off from, like, a tree had fallen in the neighborhood.
So do you put, like, acrylic paint over that stuff? Like, how do you preserve it?
You make sure it's dry. You can't really leave any moisture in it. And then, you do like a clear varnish or something like that. Some stuff my wife will come in the kitchen and be like, why is there grass baking in the oven? And I'm like, don't touch it. It's got to be perfectly dry, and it's going to sit at like 100 degrees for hours.
That's not how I burn my grass.
And then,
Oh, boy.
See the Shadowrun orc.
Oh, nice.
On him.
Shadowrun. That was one of the first tabletop RPGs I ever played with Shadowrun. I love Shadowrun so much.
I was going to say, are you sure you're not scarred by it? Because Shadowrun is famous for being one of the most complex things out there.
It really depends. I was like doing a sit-in on like some friends' stuff, so I let them do all the heavy lifting on that one. Now it's just like
Yeah,
a hacker orc or something.
yeah, it's one of those ones now you need an actual computer program to make a character because there's just so much detail going into it.
Yeah.
I bought the 6th edition, which is the newest one, and I would say a week after reading it went, this will never hit the table.
Oh,
Like, my buddies will not sit through hours of character creation.
I feel that. I've made 2 characters, like beyond that Shadow, on my like Shadowrun character. There's the one I'm currently using, and then we did a one-off Halloween module last year for fun that involved like fighting David F's pumpkins or whatever, and a bunch of other like the uh like Tracy Jordan like werewolf bar mitzvah werewolf.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
we
was
always do those like weird holiday ones. I always do a big Christmas game, and this year we did Kiss versus the Phantom of the Amusement Park.
Oh, nice.
I used a generic system on. It's actually Modiphius publishes it as Index Card RPG. It's like a really super streamlined RPG. You can be like downplaying it in like 5 minutes with your characters. And I was like, wait, you can actually skin this to anything. In like an hour, you can come up with all new rules. And I was like, every year, like I said, we do something bonkers for Christmas. 2 years ago, we did, it was still a fantasy thing, but it was them versus every single Rankin Bass villain.
Oh shit! So like Mumra and like.
Well, this was all the holiday themed ones, though.
Oh,
so this
okay.
was the weird ones too. Like, did you ever see the Life and Times of Santa Claus, where he goes to war with the orcs?
No,
It's-
but that's interesting.
It's bonkers, and it is the forgotten one of Rankin Bass. But it's literally the orcs are trying to prevent Santa Claus from getting to the villages. They call them something else, but they're orcs. And there's actually a like the 2 battle lines meet between the immortals and the orcs. So I had like totally the characters were trying to get through every one of those sets of villains.
So,
But yeah,
oh man, 2 years ago we did Die Hard D&D. So it was like our campaign,
Nice.
right? But
Yeah.
we ended up in a place called Takanomi Plaza or Takanomi Tower, and we fought against Grons Huber, and we got help from Monja Lane as we went through it all, and it was so much fun, especially because like we got that satisfying moment of Grons Huber going over the tower and all that stuff at the very end. It was a nice little like chef's kiss thing from our for our campaign there.
Yeah, it's funny because our Kiss versus the Phantom of the Amusement Park, because all the players were Kiss. And if you've ever seen the actual movie Kiss versus the Phantom of the Amusement Park, they all had magical Kiss, and we're talking the band.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they all had magical Kiss amulets that gave them superpowers, which were never very well defined. Like, they were all over the place. Paul Stanley could charm you and blow fire. Stuff just made no sense. But one of the characters ends up getting a wish, and he wished for Rank Xerox from the Heavy Metal comics. The character Rank Xerox, and he blew the wish spell. He like rolled poorly on it, so he got a Rank Xerox machine that was sentient. So this super stinky Xerox copier followed him around.
Man, we once did like a drunk D&D game where someone played as an anthropomorphic scented candle, and they would let off different scents depending on like their emotions. That didn't end well that night, but it was an interesting concept. I think I was playing as Miley Cyrus with a wrecking ball.
Oh, that's awesome! Have like on a chain, like a flail.
Yeah. That was a classic, man. But yeah, dude, such good times. I'm loving this. Greg, wow, you've already. It's great how just like
over here.
a couple like a little red and white, and it's really taken off already.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be able to finish it with this on this stream, unfortunately, because we're coming up on our time. But
yeah, I still gotta highlight. There's a lot of highlighting on him. He has a lot of gears.
So now here's the question: do we save this for the next stream, or do you finish it up and we show it off on social? We'll have to figure that out later. But we'll do this again on another episode of Retail Therapy at some point, I'd imagine, right?
Oh hell yeah, we better.
Yeah.
No, I'm telling you, we need to have the Blake narrates us painting.
Yeah.
Oh,
I could like. Should I, do I have to like?
I'd be happy to take part in painting on that one.
All right, as long as I don't have to like lick a rubber ear while I'm talking or anything like that, I should be cool. All right. I know how those ASMR streams get. I've got the internet. Yeah, but dude, Ted, thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah,
of course, thank you to Chris as well from Modiphius for stopping by. You can check them out online. Maybe pick up some miniatures from you. I think you can do a better job than Greg at painting a Brotherhood of Steel Soldier here. Well, give it a shot. Go buy some now. Give them a try. And of course, thank you for supporting us here on our Shacknews Twitch. If you like what you saw today, please give us a follow. Or if you want to give us a sub, you're more than welcome to do that as well. We appreciate the support no matter what you do. Maybe you've got Amazon Prime and you don't know what to do with that free Twitch sub. Give us Jeff Bezos' money, god damn it. What's he going to do? Build another dick-shaped rocket? No. Give it to us. We'll build, like, way cooler shit. Maybe we'll get a Jeff Bezos miniature rocket ship and paint that. And, probably not. And of course, check out our social media channels. Like us on Facebook. We're Shacknews there. We're Shacknews Media on Instagram. Give us a follow on Twitter. We're just at Shacknews. You can subscribe to our YouTube channels that Greg works very hard on. Greg, you're always putting stuff up on Shacknews Games and Gamer Hub videos all the time, working in those video mines, slaving away, right?
Always, every day, Monday through Friday.
Every day.
And the occasional Saturday.
Yeah. And, of course, Shacknews.com is the reason for the season. We're writing tons of reviews, previews, interviews, all sorts of cool stuff going up there. I just did a preview of Nintendo Switch Sports. You can go read about that. You can go check out some interviews I did at GDC. You can look at all the other great content we have up there. Go check it out. And, of course, this is all brought to you by Shack Pets. Ted, do you know about Shack Pets yet?
I know about Shack Pets, yes.
Oh, my goodness. So, basically, you get on your Android or your iOS device. You download Shack Pets, one word. It's free. And you can upload pics of your pets and then challenge other pets that you think aren't as cute as yours to a little cute off. And then people vote on which pet pic they think is the cutest. Every day there's new challenges. Every day you can challenge more pets. And if you don't feel like challenging, we have a latest pets feed. So you can just look at pics of cute, adorable puppers and kittens. We even got like one really cute skunk on there. A couple guinea pigs. It's good times. And it's just kind of soothing, right? Even though you're voting on things, it's what pet is the cutest one in these pictures. Like, it's a win-win no matter what, honestly. So you can get that today free of charge. Shack Pets, it's what we do. And hey, you know what else? Please donate right now. We've got Ozzy Mejia in Florida. He is right now taking on all challengers. Let's see if we can get some information on that inside the chat there. I don't know if Denny's around, but I'm looking for the link right now myself. Okay, let's see. I think I can do it if I hit extra. There we go. Yeah, our charity campaign is live right now. You can help support some kids that are in need right now. And then tomorrow, as part of this, we're also going to be it's the 26th anniversary of Shacknews.com tomorrow. And to celebrate, we're all getting together to play a little bit of Quake and raise some money for charity as well. So you can donate to Extra Life today in support of what Ozzy's doing. You can donate tomorrow, whenever you feel like. We appreciate the love and support. And remember, this is for the children. We're not getting anything out of this. We're just here trying to support children's hospitals across America. So if you want to give us a hand with that, we greatly appreciate it. And with that, I am out of things to plug shamelessly. Thank you again for tuning in. Ted, thank you again for being here. And of course, thank you to my co-hosts, Greg Burkleton Burke and Rodney Conyers Jr. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. Retail Therapy is just a super fun show. I'm loving this. This is our 3rd episode, and it's just great to just come on, hang out, and talk about whatever we want. So yeah, thanks for allowing us to do that, and we hope you had a good time as well. We will see you tomorrow. Greg, you're going to be hosting Pop Goes the Culture, and then we're going to be shooting stuff each other in Quake, and we will see you then.